Heartwarming encounter. Sick little girl's simple request reveals an inspiring millionaire's amazing transformation. Joe stood behind the counter of his beloved diner, the faded neon sign flickering outside, casting a warm glow over the weathered linoleum floor. His calloused hands worked tirelessly, preparing meals that filled the air with the sense of home, bacon sizzling, pancakes battering, coffee brewing. But today was different. Rain tapped against the window like a quiet plea, mirroring the storm brewing in his heart. The corporate giants were circling, threatening to suffocate his little piece of paradise. It felt suffocating, watching the joy being snuffed out like the dying embers of his mother's old cookstove. As the door swung open, a gust of cool air followed a small girl named Lily into the diner. She was delicate, no more than 8, but carrying the weight of the world on her small shoulders. Her bright eyes flickered as she scanned the diner, lighting up at the sight of its familiar charm. Beside her, her mother's worried expression tugged at Joe's heart. He masked his concern with a smile, welcoming the duo warmly. "What can I get for you today?" he asked, his voice soft with compassion. Lily clutched a faded stuffed animal, her courage shining through her frailty. "Can I meet Mr. Johnson?" she whispered, her voice barely breaking above the diner's gentle hum. Joe's heart sank. Mr. Johnson, the retired veteran, was a beloved figure here, sharing stories of bravery at the long counter. But Lily was battling leukemia. Wisdom should not find such an innocent soul. Her request hit Joe hard, like a punch to the gut, reminding him of a time when community mattered more than profit. He could almost hear echoes of laughter from his childhood, a small town where heroes appeared in the unlikeliest places. "Of course, sweet pea," he managed, swallowing the lump in his throat. That encounter ignited a fire deep within Joe, an undeniable urge to give Lily something brighter in her day, to make memories that would overshadow her troubles, like a sunny day chasing away the clouds. Inspired, he knew what needed to be done: a fundraiser, a community gathering to help heal not just Lily, but the heart of the diner itself. But as the days rolled on, reality set in. The town, struggling to survive under the weight of a few wealthy chains, was hesitant to rally under Joe's banner. He watched dear friends swallow their pride, each trying to scrape by as the rich got richer. The air thickened with tension, a chasm forming between hope and despair. The day of the fundraiser arrived, Joe's heart raced with hope. But as the clock ticked down, only a handful showed up. Just when despair was about to take hold, an unexpected figure pushed through the diner door: Alex, a millionaire who grew up just down the block but felt worlds away now. The childhood memories of baseball in the park flooded Joe's mind, but the ache of their divergent paths left him unsettled. "Joe, I'm here to help," Alex said, sincerity written all over his face. But could he really understand? Could wealth and privilege bridge the gap between dreams and survival? Their county needed a miracle. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the sun dipped low, painting the diner gold, the weight of unspoken questions lingered. Could they unite for Lily's sake? Would hope prevail against the backdrop of an indifferent world? In that moment, the flicker of possibilities swirled in the air, setting the stage for something greater. Would the heart of a town beat strong enough to withstand the trials ahead? And could the bond between an inspiring girl, a weary diner owner, and a reclusive millionaire change it all? Joe watched Alex step further into the diner, a mix of emotions swirling within him. The unease of old memories fought against the flicker of hope kindling inside him. Why now? Why after all this time? Alex, with his tailored suit and polished shoes, seemed worlds apart from the diner's charm. Yet, there was an earnestness in his eyes that softened Joe's defensiveness. Before Joe could gather his thoughts, a child's laugh pierced through the tension. It was Lily, her little hands clapping with joy when she spotted Alex. "Mr. Johnson!" she shouted, her spirit shining brightly. For a moment, she was the embodiment of pure innocence and hope, a stark contrast to the quiet desperation that had threaded itself through the diner that day. "Hey there, Lily." Alex knelt down, his demeanor gentle and open. "What are you doing here?" "I came to meet you," she exclaimed, her face lighting up like a Christmas tree. It was contagious, even Joe felt his own frown softening. The memory of their shared youth bubbled up in Joe. They were once friends, partners in mischief, dreaming under the stars, long before success had drawn them apart. The world had changed them. Could they still connect in their shared past amidst such stark realities? "I see you're helping your mom, huh?" Alex responded, his fingers brushing the stuffed animal in her arms. "What's his name?" "Fluffy." She beamed. "And he's going to help us with the fundraiser." A lump formed in Joe's throat as he witnessed this beautiful connection. Maybe Alex was here for a reason. A miracle could be waiting to unfurl if they combined forces. Could they weave together dreams that spoke both to the town's heart and the innocent wisdom of a little girl? "What did you have in mind for this fundraiser?" Alex asked Joe, turning to the man who, despite his weathered appearance, had the courage of a warrior. "Honestly, I thought a simple bake sale, maybe some local art for auction, just something to bring everyone together." The words spilled out, filled with both anxiety and hope. "Sounds good, but I think we could do a bit more," Alex grinned, his confidence sending a ripple of inspiration through Joe. "What if we turned it into a block party? Lots of food trucks, music, games, bring the whole town together. People will come out for that." Joe blinked, absorbing the idea. A block party? It was a spark that ignited a flicker deep in his heart. It was bold, perhaps even reckless, but was that not what was needed? "You think people would show up?" "Absolutely," Alex replied, standing taller with renewed energy. "If we promote it right, if we share Lily's story, people love to rally for a cause. This is about our community, Joe. We can do this together." With every word, Joe felt the walls of despair beginning to crumble around him. Perhaps they could draw back the neighbors, rekindle the sense of togetherness that had once thrived. It was a chance to fight against the cold winds of corporate indifference with warmth and determination. But just as excitement bubbled over, doubt crept back in. Would the community support them after so long? Could they truly set aside their struggles for this event? "Okay," Joe finally said, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "Let us do it." As the day unfolded, the diner filled with urgency and hope. Coffee flowed freely, orders flared up as Joe enlisted staff support. Meanwhile, Alex began rallying volunteers from his connections, igniting a fire in the hearts of the community. But even as excitement buzzed through the air, Joe couldn't shake the feeling, was this enough? Would they truly find the support they needed? With Lily watching, a spark ignited inside him, and for the first time in a long while, things felt right. With bright eyes fixed on the future, Joe asked himself, could this block party become more than just an event? Could it be a turning point for not just Lily, but the community? As the sun began to set behind the diner, a strange peace settled around him. He took a breath, looking toward Alex. The next move was crucial. What lay ahead in this endeavor? Would the town rise to the occasion? Joe couldn't shake the hopeful flutter in his chest as he glanced around the diner. Each table was filled with familiar faces, some lost in conversation, others sipping coffee as they stared past their mugs, seemingly pondering the weight of life in a town that had seen better days. But today, something felt different. Lily clutched her stuffed animal, Fluffy, eyes wide with wonder. She had no idea how significant this moment was or how much rested on it. Here they were, a millionaire and a diner owner, standing side by side, ready to put their ideas into motion. But as much as hope bubbled inside him, Joe felt the stark reality of their past loom over him like a shadow. "What's our first step?" Joe finally asked, breaking the momentary silence that had settled between them. Alex's smile was radiant. "We need to start spreading the word. Let us make announcements on social media, create some buzz." He rubbed the back of his neck, a frown of concentration forming. "And let us not forget the flyers. Neighbors need to see the vision we have for this block party." Joe nodded. The buzz of excitement was contagious. "I'll get the staff working on the diner's social media. We can make some flyers for the diner windows too." "Great. I'll contact a few local musicians and food truck owners. We need to line up the essentials. And if we can make it family-friendly, that would be ideal." While they mapped out their plans, Joe felt a swell of gratitude toward Alex. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a chance to reconnect with a deeper part of himself, to rediscover the enthusiasm he once had for life, before the burdens of adulthood weighed him down. It was refreshing to be reminded of that spark. As the evening progressed, laughter began to fill the diner once again. His staff jumped on board, bringing ideas to the table, their spirits lifting with each passing moment. Even regulars who had kept to themselves began sharing their own stories and suggestions for the event. The discussion danced around live music and games, faces lighting up with dreams of togetherness. But as the planning rolled along, Joe also noticed the cautious glances exchanged among some patrons. Whispers of doubt floated through the air, like a warning. It was as if the scars of loss and strife ran deep, and not everyone believed this block party could bring the community back. Amidst this, Lily, blissfully unaware of the doubts, tugged at Joe's sleeve, breaking his train of thought. "Are we really going to have a party?" Her innocent gaze sparkled with excitement. "Yes, sweetheart." Joe bent down, meeting her gaze firmly. "We're going to throw a big party, and everyone is invited." She clapped her hands, jumping in delight. "Can we have balloons? I love balloons." Alex chuckled, his eyes glistening with warmth. "Of course, Lily. Balloons and games, and everything else you can think of." As they moved ahead with the ideas, Joe felt his heart swell with purpose. Perhaps it was the longing for a sense of belonging, or maybe it was the promise of possibility heralded by a child's dream. Yet, uncertainty still glimmered at the edge of his thoughts. Could they actually pull this off? As the diner buzzed with energy, fueled by theirs and the community's growing enthusiasm, Joe caught Alex's eye. They exchanged a wordless understanding that this meant something far more significant than just a fundraiser. It was about healing old wounds, restoring faith, and maybe even giving the town a reason to hope once more. But deep down, the question loomed larger than ever. Would the town really come together, or would the ghosts of the past keep them apart? Just as he prepared to voice this concern, a loud crash echoed from the back of the diner, pulling everyone's attention. Laughter turned to shocked gasps. What had happened now? And would it change everything they had worked for? Joe's heart raced as he turned to face the commotion at the back of the diner. Patrons were standing, eyes wide, pointing toward the kitchen. The clattering of metal mingled with anxious whispers. He could feel a knot tightening in his stomach. Had they just shattered the excitement that had built all evening? With a deep breath, Joe made his way through the crowd, Alex and Lily trailing close behind. As they approached, he spotted Margaret, his head cook, kneeling next to a toppled shelf. A cascade of plates lay scattered across the floor, glinting under the diner's fluorescent lights like fallen stars. "Margaret!" Joe exclaimed, rushing to her side. "Are you okay?" She looked up, brushing stray hair from her face. "I'm fine, Joe. Just a little too much enthusiasm while trying to get these ready for the party." Her voice held a tremor, but she managed a small smile, though the worry in her eyes remained. Everyone seemed to hold their breath as Joe helped her gather the plates, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this disaster could ripple through the plans they had just set into motion. When the last plate was upright, he cleared his throat, glancing back at the gathered crowd. "All right, everyone. We're still on track for this block party. We're not letting a few broken plates get in our way, right? His voice rang out above the murmurings, and slowly, he saw nods and smiles begin to appear. Yay, party! Lily shouted, jumping up and down. Her innocence was a beacon amidst the tension. The laughter returned, emerging like a flicker of hope from the ashes of uncertainty. As the diners settled back down, Joe caught Alex's eye again, and a silent acknowledgement passed between them. They wouldn't let fear overshadow their dreams. Today wasn't just about a party. It was about reclaiming joy, about reuniting with the past amidst the pain. Let's double down, Alex said, leaning closer. We'll need more hands. If people see us working together, it may reignite their excitement. Great idea, Joe replied, already contemplating who else they could rope into helping. Let's reach out to local businesses. They might want to sponsor or contribute. It's about community, right? That's the spirit. Alex grinned, his eyes lighting up with renewed vigor. I'll hit up the hardware store, they owe me a favor or two. You handle the social media side. We need a big call to action. As they split off to take on their tasks, Joe couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of camaraderie settle over him. They were more than just a diner and a millionaire. They were allies in restoring their town's spirit. But then, like a storm cloud looming on the horizon, he remembered the doubts that had danced around him earlier. Would the local businesses really rally around them? Would they come together, or would they continue to hide behind the weight of their histories? Suddenly, Lily's hand was in his, pulling him back to the present. Daddy? She interjected, eyes wide and serious. Do people really see hope, like I do? The weight of her innocent gaze sent a pang through his heart. They will, Lily, he found himself saying, though doubt gnawed at him. We just have to keep showing them. With renewed determination, he turned back to the diner, a place filled with laughter. Tomorrow was going to be tough, they had a lot to organize. Yet a flicker of belief ignited. As he caught glimpses of neighbors starting to chat and some gathering around the last of the food, a thought nestled deep within him, maybe this was the spark they needed. Maybe they were already on the path. Then, just as Joe felt a swell of optimism wrap around him, a noise drew his attention to the door. A figure stood at the entrance, silhouetted against the fading light of the evening, someone he hadn't expected to see. What were they doing here, and how would it change everything they were planning? The crowd's chatter faded away, swallowed by the uncertainty that hung thick in the air. Joe squinted against the dim light and the blurring figures. As the silhouette stepped forward, his heart skipped a beat. It was Sarah, the town's former mayor, a woman he hadn't seen in years. She had her arms crossed, her brow furrowed, but there was something different about her. A vulnerability that hadn't existed when she held office. Joe, she began, her voice soft yet firm. I've been hearing about the block party. She paused, glancing around the diner, taking in the scene of camaraderie that had blossomed from the chaos. Joe felt a rush of emotions. Sarah had once been a source of hope for the town, a figure that inspired change. Yet, after stepping down, she seemed to drift away, leaving a void that had been palpable ever since. It's good to see you, he managed, his tone laced with cautious optimism. Are you here to help? A shadow flicked across her face. Actually, I wanted to apologize. The diner's laughter seemed to fade even further. Apologize? Joe shifted on his feet, not entirely sure where this was headed. When I was mayor, I got caught up in politics and lost sight of what mattered this community, the small gatherings that brought us closer. She waved a hand, taking in the bustling atmosphere. I see how hard you're working to bring it back. I want in. Time stood still in that moment. A flicker of disbelief crossed his mind. Could they really put their past behind them and work together for something bigger? All he could muster was a nod. We love your help. Great. Her smile broke through the tension, radiating warmth. It felt contagious, reaching out to the people around them. What can I do? Actually, we were just about to reach out to local businesses for support. This block party needs sponsorships, food, games, anything to spark joy. Joe felt a wave of hope swell again. Maybe this was the shift they needed. I can bring in some contacts from the city, she said, her confidence building with every word. There are resources I know of. They can rally behind a good cause. Lily tugged at Joe's shirt. Daddy, she whispered excitedly, is she going to make it into a real party? Joe knelt beside her, a smile breaking on his face. I think she might just help make that happen. Just then, the sound of laughter erupted from a large table of regulars. They were teasing each other as they finished their meals, drawing everyone's attention back to the heart of the diner. Suddenly, Joe felt the warmth of connection enveloping them all like a campfire-esque glow. Okay, let us do this, he said, rising and addressing the room. This party is going to be about more than just food. It's about unity, community, and hope. As everyone cheered, Sarah's gaze met his, a silent agreement passing between them. They were ready to stand together, lift the town out of its shadows. The energy shifted, excitement blossomed from the lingering doubts. Yet, deep down, uncertainty still gnawed at Joe. Could this genuine moment truly last? What if all they built started to crumble under pressure? Just then, the door swung open again with a creak, and another familiar face appeared in the backdrop. Joe felt his chest tighten. Oh no, not now, he muttered softly, his heart sinking as he recognized who it was. Would this unexpected arrival be the next hurdle they had to face, or could it be a chance for healing? Joe's heart raced as the figure stepped fully into the diner's light. It was Hank, the very man Joe had hoped would stay on the sidelines. A former business associate who had caused more division than unity in this town, Hank was a reminder of old wounds that hadn't quite healed. Hank, Joe greeted, forcing a smile while his insides twisted with apprehension. What brings you back to town? Hank shrugged. Just passing through. Heard about the block party. His eyes flicked over to Sarah. A slight smirk tugged at his lips. Looks like the mayor wants to play politician again. The tension in the room shifted. Joe could feel it, like an electric current. He didn't want Hank's negativity to touch what they were building. Actually, Sarah's here to help bring this community together, he said, hoping to defuse the situation. Hank let out a laugh that scraped at Joe's nerves. Help? From her? Seems desperate. Enough, Sarah interjected, stepping forward with resolve. I know my past mistakes, and I'm here to make amends. We all want a better future for this town, don't we? A pregnant pause spread across the diner, faces turning back and forth like a tennis match. Joe admired her courage, but Hank wasn't finished. People don't change that easily, Sarah. You're not going to erase those years with one good deed, he continued, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Joe felt a fire ignite within him. Maybe you need to learn how to trust people again, Hank. You don't have to keep dragging everyone down with you. A few patrons nodded in agreement. Joe's chest swelled with renewed conviction. Maybe the block party wasn't just about food and games. Maybe it was about healing, about letting the wounds of the past serve as stepping stones for a better future. Let us focus on the positive, he suggested, glancing around the room. This party can be a fresh start for all of us. Let us welcome new ideas, even from those who've stumbled in the past. Hank looked taken aback for a moment, caught in a moment of indecision. But then his expression hardened. I'll believe it when I see it, Joe, he said dismissively, pushing his chair back and rising. Count me out. As Hank walked away, the diner buzzed with chatter again. Engaged faces flickered with hope. But Joe couldn't shake the feeling that Hank's words had struck a nerve. Was this fleeting joy built on solid ground, or was it just a house of cards ready to collapse? What do you think will happen now? Lily asked, her small hand resting on his arm, eyes wide with curiosity. Is he going to ruin everything? Joe knelt down to meet her gaze. No, sweetheart. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to create something better together. With that, they regrouped around Sarah. Plans began to flow freely, ideas bouncing off the walls like balloons filled with hope. The air hummed with possibility, yet a single question remained lodged in Joe's mind. Would the community rally together when the time came, or would old grudges resurface, threatening to tear at the strands of their newfound unity? And as they sketched out food stalls, games, and music in the margins of diner napkins, a weight tugged at Joe's heart. Just then, a familiar voice piped up from the back. Hey! What's everyone plotting? Joe froze, straining to turn at the sound. Who was about to interrupt their delicate moment of camaraderie now? The last thing he wanted was another potential wrench in the gears of this fragile project. Who else could possibly show up to challenge their hopes? Joe turned slowly, the unease simmering within him as he faced the newcomer. It was Emily, a sparkling-eyed girl from the neighborhood who had often stopped by the diner with her father for milkshakes. Her father was a quiet man, working long hours to make ends meet, and Emily was the light in his world. Emily! Joe exclaimed, trying to mask his tension with a smile. What are you up to? I was just wondering what you all are doing, she said, glancing at the crumpled napkins covered in doodles of games and food. Her mother had told her that a block party was coming, but she hadn't quite grasped what it meant yet. Sarah knelt down beside her, her face softening. We're planning a party for everyone in town, Emily. A day for games, food, and fun. A chance for us all to come together. Emily's face lit up. That sounds awesome. Can I help? Joe held back a chuckle. Here was this little girl, eager to pitch in. It was a reminder of the innocence that lived in community. Before he could answer, Emily continued, her brow scrunching in thought. But I want to ask for something too. Can we make sure everyone is invited? Even the people who don't always get invited? Her words hung in the air, a quiet challenge to what Joe had just argued for. He felt a swell of pride mix with something else, fear, maybe. He could feel Hank's dark energy pooling in the corners of his mind again, whispering cruel possibilities. Absolutely, Joe said firmly. Everyone should feel welcome. Everyone. Emily nodded, her enthusiasm unshaken. Just then, the diner door swung open again, and the bell chimed loudly. This time, it was Clara, a woman known for her bake sales and warm smile. Hey there, everyone. I couldn't help but overhear. Did someone say block party? Clara. Sarah called. Come join us. We're planning something big. As she approached their table, the atmosphere shifted again. The struggles and challenges of the past started to feel lighter, as Clara joined them in brainstorming. People filtered in and out of the diner, drawn to the budding energy. Each new face brought in more ideas and suggestions. The warmth of hope wrapped around Joe like a cozy blanket, temporarily pushing back the shadows of doubt. But as they spoke and laughed, Joe's conscience nagged at him. The question lingered, how would Hank respond to this? Could one little girl's gentle request to be inclusive really pave the way to harmony, or were there too many scars in their community that couldn't heal? In that moment, Lily jumped up from her seat, her innocent excitement bubbling over. Can we have a dance-off too? She exclaimed. I love that idea. Clara said, her eyes dancing with mirth. They began laughing, making grand plans, each contributing their hopes to the mix. Inspiration flowed, and for a brief moment, Joe dared to imagine that they could rally together for something greater. But just then, a chill ran down Joe's spine as he caught a glimpse of Hank lurking outside, watching the laughter through the window. The frown etched on Hank's face felt like a dark cloud threatening their sunny plans. Was this unity even possible? Joe's heart raced again, not just from excitement, but from fear. Could old grudges really fracture what they were trying to build? The block party loomed ahead, a promise of joy tinged with uncertainty. And with every hopeful smile around him, Joe found himself wishing for more than just a celebration. He wanted true healing. As he steeled himself for what would come, the unmistakable sound of footsteps approached again. He turned, wondering if Hank had finally come to confront them. How would they respond this time? Joe felt his heart pound as he prepared himself for Hank's entrance. The warm laughter of the diner felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the tension swirling inside him. He watched as the door creaked open slowly, and there stood Hank, his figure tall and imposing, his expression hard like stone. "Hey," Hank said, his voice low. There was hesitance behind the word, a moment of vulnerability that surprised even Joe, who had always seen Hank as a man strictly defined by his anger. "What do you want, Hank?" Joe asked, trying to keep his tone steady. The air around them thickened, and the chatter from other tables faded. "I wanted to talk," Hank replied, glancing at the group gathered around the table. Clara, Sarah, Emily, and Lily all kept their eyes fixed on him, wary but curious. "About what?" Joe's mouth felt dry. The words hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. "About the block party," Hank said, his tone softer now. "I heard what you're trying to do sounds like a lot of work." Joe let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. There was a glimmer of something in Hank's voice. Was it concern, or was it just an attempt to sound reasonable? "It is," Clara chimed in, a touch of enthusiasm in her voice. "But it's going to be worth it. We want everyone to have fun, Hank." Hank shifted slightly, as if weighing the words. "Fun, huh?" He looked down at the ground, deep in thought. "You know, when I think of block parties, I remember a time when folks actually cared about each other before everything fell apart." The lingering silence had a weight to it, moments unshared, emotions unsaid. Lily, sensing the shift, piped up brightly. "You should come, Hank. It'll be super fun. We'll have games and music and yeah, but it's not just about the fun, is it?" Hank cut her off gently, his face softening just a bit. "It's about the people. Some folks don't like to get involved because they feel like outsiders, and I don't know if I'm ready for that." Joe felt a flicker of a chance. Maybe this was a moment to bridge the gap that had long divided them. "You don't have to be an outsider, Hank. We want you there, too. Everyone should feel included, and if you have ideas, we'd love to hear them." A long pause followed, and in that silence, hope tiptoed into the room. Hank's brows furrowed. "You really think it can change anything?" "I do," Joe replied quietly. "Emily reminded me of what this can mean. It's not just a party, it's a chance for healing. For everyone." Emily glanced at him, her eyes sparkling. "Yes. We can all play together. Like superheroes. Everyone needs a superhero to save the day." Hank chuckled, the tension loosening just a notch. "Superheroes, huh? Guess I haven't thought of it that way. What if this conversation could lead to something?" Joe could feel the flicker of change as the smiles around him expanded, opened like flowers reaching for the sun. But deep down, he sensed Hank wrestling with his past and his own scars. Just before Joe could respond, Hank's face hardened again. "Look, I'll think about it. But just don't get your hopes up, alright? People don't change easily." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving an uneasy stillness in his wake. Joe's heart sank as he watched Hank leave, but Emily's small hand squeezed his arm. "Don't worry, Joe. We can still do this. Just like superheroes." He smiled at her, but doubt crept back in, mixing with the hope that had blossomed earlier. Would Hank actually think it through? As the conversations resumed, laughter rang out again, but Joe couldn't shake the unease. He could feel the rift still pulsing between them, how close they were to something groundbreaking, yet how far they still had to go. Was unity even possible with a shadow like Hank looming over them? The block party was supposed to be a fresh start, but the road ahead felt as twisted as ever. Would they truly be able to bring everyone together, or was this just another empty promise? The diner buzzed with chatter, but Joe felt like he was wrapped in a muffling fog. Hank's departure left a void where possibility had briefly flickered. Clara leaned over, her brows knit in concern. "Joe, are you okay?" she asked softly, her warm brown eyes searching his face. "Yeah, just thinking about what Hank said," Joe replied, trying to shake off the emotional weight clinging to him. He glanced at the booth where the others sat, laughing and carrying on as if the world hadn't just shifted beneath them. "I don't want the block party to feel like a failure before it even happens." "It's not going to fail," Sarah interjected. "We have to keep that expectation high. We are all in this together, remember?" "Together," Joe echoed, but the word felt heavy, as if its meaning was more a dream than a reality just waiting to unfold. "Right," Emily piped up. "And what if we all went to Hank's? Maybe we could convince him that he could come too. It'll be like inviting a superhero to our team." Joe looked at her innocent enthusiasm and felt a rush of warmth. "You're a smart kid, Emily. But Hank isn't just a superhero. He carries a lot of baggage." "But superheroes do that too," she insisted. "They carry their problems and still help other people." As the word settled, Joe found himself smiling. Emily had a point, and perhaps that was the kind of thinking they needed. With renewed energy, he looked around the table, seeing each of their faces light up with excitement. "All right, what if we all visited Hank tomorrow? Let us give him a taste of our plans. We'll show him it can be fun." A chorus of affirmations rose from the table, lifting his spirits. Clara wagged her fingers in the air. "I can bake cookies. Everyone loves cookies. I'll bring the board games," Sarah added, her excitement peeking through. Emily bounced in her seat. "And I'll come with my coolest superhero costume." Lily chuckled, her voice light. "We should also bring a game that gets everyone involved. Let us show him what fun looks like." As they made plans, Joe's doubts started to fade like mist in the morning sun. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. They were building momentum, and he could see how this mission might not only bridge the gap with Hank but also deepen their bond as a community. "Okay, let us make this work," he said, determination flooding through him. But as he glanced outside at the fading daylight, another concern flickered in his mind. Would their enthusiasm be enough to create change in someone as stubborn as Hank? The following day felt surreal. The sun was brighter, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Their group arrived at Hank's house, standing on the uneven, broken pathway that led to his door. Joe's heart raced, excitement warred with uncertainty. He knocked, the sound echoing in the silence. The moments that followed felt like hours, each second stretching into the next. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open, revealing Hank's familiar, hardened face. But today, Joe noticed something different. A flicker of curiosity darted through Hank's eyes. "What do you want?" Hank asked, though his tone lacked the bite it usually carried. Joe took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. "We came to invite you to our block party and to show you what it's about. It's not just food and games, it's a taste of community." Hank glanced over Joe's shoulder at the eager faces behind him and then back at Joe. For a moment, time paused. Would Hank even consider it? Joe's heart beat loudly in his chest, the stakes higher than ever. But then, before Joe could continue his plea, he noticed Hank's shoulders relax ever so slightly. "You're really serious about this, aren't you?" And just like that, hope shot back into Joe's heart. What if Hank's guard was about to come down? Would this block party truly be the bridge they all needed? He held his breath, ready for whatever Hank might say next. Would he say yes? Hank stood there, his stoic demeanor slowly softening as he looked at the group gathered. His heavy arms crossed over his chest seemed to ease, and with a slight shift of weight, he finally relented. "All right, I'll come to your block party. But don't expect me to join in all that jumping around. Joy swept through Joe like a tidal wave, and he couldn't help the grin that broke across his face. That's all we ask. Just come and see. You might just find yourself enjoying a slice of pie, or maybe a game or two. Lily piped up excitedly, and balloons. Don't forget the balloons. Hank chuckled, the sound genuine and surprisingly warm. I guess I can ride the wave for some balloons. This moment felt pivotal. A tiny crack in the wall that had grown thick over the years had just been formed. Joe could almost feel the weight of collective hope pressing against them, ready to burst forth. Great! We'll give you all the details for the day, Clara chimed in, her smile infectious. As they discussed the details, something shifted in the air. The gathered community saw a small but tangible sign of change. Hank was beginning to let them in, even if just a little. Okay, then, Hank said, finally stepping aside, allowing the warmth of their smiles to fill the entrance. I'll see you all then. Just don't expect me to be the life of the party. With that, he closed the door gently, almost reverently, as if he'd just struck a deal with what once felt impossible. The group erupted in laughter, a reflection of the weight lifting. Joe felt lighter too, as if the heaviness of anticipation had dispersed. For the first time, it seemed like the block party wasn't just a dream, it was becoming a reality. As the preparations for the event unfolded, an undeniable energy surged around the diner. Posters plastered on windows, enticing songs spread through the air, and the exhilarating hum of community entered into every conversation. The day finally arrived. Sunlight streamed through the trees, illuminating everything in a warm golden glow. Children raced towards the booths filled with donuts and games, laughter echoing like a melody through the streets. With each cake slice served and every balloon flown, Joe felt gratitude well up in his chest. He could see familiar faces joining in, embracing old memories and rekindling connections that had long lain dormant. Just as the band kicked off a spirited song, a figure appeared at the edge of the crowd. Hank stood there, just outside the vibrant scene, watching. For a moment, fear held Joe captive. Would Hank join in, or did he still linger on the fringes? With a deep breath, Joe stepped away from the crowds and approached him. You made it. He called out, his voice buoyant with surprise. Hank nodded slowly, his gaze flitting between the laughter of the children and the welcoming arms of the community. It's nice to see everyone getting along, he said, his voice quieter, almost humbled. Would you like to join us? Hank hesitated, but Joe's sincerity remedied the tension. All right, he finally said, a smile breaking through. Show me what this block party is all about. Joy filled Joe's heart as they walked together back into the cacophony of laughter, music, and jubilant chaos. As the afternoon rolled on, watching families reconnect and neighbors laugh evoked a deep sense of warmth within him. Dinner was served as friends gathered around tables piled high with food. Songs rang out, and little by little, everyone began to merge past grudges softened, and warm stories were shared over plates and laughter. Midway through the event, Joe caught sight of Lily with Emily and a group of kids, all red-faced from laughter. Hank stood nearby, watching them with a soft smile that didn't falter once. It was a sight brimmed with hope, the walls surrounding his heart beginning to crumble, revealing a long-lost sense of purpose. When it finally came time for the dance-off, excitement filled the air. Joe felt the energy shift, a sort of collective decision to embrace the moment. Lily pulled him onto the makeshift dance floor, her eyes sparkling with joy. They danced together, lost in the music, the vibrant smiles of community filling in the spaces where fear had dwelled for too long. In that beautiful moment, glances were exchanged. Eleanor, Clara, Sarah, and finally, Hank. They shared a unity forged through understanding, forgiveness, and a shared belief in something greater. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Joe felt overwhelmed by an emotional wave. They had stepped through the doors of isolation and into the embrace of kinship. The diner once threatened to fall into shadows had blossomed into a beacon of hope, the very heart of a community. He turned to Lily, pulling her close, her little head resting against his shoulder. "You did it," he whispered, his heart full. "You brought us all together." "Yes," she squeaked, jumping up and down with pure joy. As music swelled around them, laughter erupted like fireworks, and that night felt like a turning point, a celebration not just of food and fun, but of love, acceptance, and resolute hope. They had found a way back to one another. Joe looked over to where Hank stood, laughter spilling from his lips as he joined the game. A transformation was underway. In the twilight glow, hope stood tall, and the community wrapped around him like an embrace, a promise that they had not just survived, but thrived together. And as lives intertwined, dreams blossomed, and connections reignited, they dared to dream a little bigger. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. Now I need to say something important. You need to subscribe now to the channel. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you even more. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the joy spreading. Comment your feelings and reactions about this incredible transformation. And, finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and remind everyone of the power of community. Don't wait not even one more second, we're counting on you.